It's not often that a teenager in his draft year earns a regular role in the KHL, let alone scores at nearly a half-point per game pace. But that's what Nikita Artamonov did this season, and it's a big part of what makes him such an intriguing prospect. If we're looking at KHL history, only Matvei Michkov, Vladimir Tarasenko, and Artemi Panarin had better point-per-game rates in their draft year than Artamonov. That's pretty good company. So why is Artamonov viewed more as a mid to late first-round pick type rather than an early first? Let's break down his skill set. So if we're talking about Artamonov's strengths, the first one that comes to mind immediately is how tenacious of a forechecker he is and the high motor that he has. We're talking about a guy who plays with serious pace and serious intensity pretty much all the time. He's relentless in terms of attacking the puck and the guy who's carrying it. Now, in terms of Artamonov's puck skills, he does flash high-end passing ability at times. Personally, when I've watched him, I've been particularly impressed with his ability to pull off quick touch passes to keep the play moving forward. Artamonov also brings the certainty of being legitimately a high-floor player. It's pretty difficult to imagine him not being at least a good NHL energy forward in the middle of a lineup. Now, on to the weaknesses. The first one, and this is always going to be a big one in the eyes of NHL scouts, Artamonov is small-ish, and he's not an elite skater. That's a combination that always scares NHL scouts. Now, that's not to say he's small. He's not tiny. He comes out at 5'11" per elite prospects. Not quite sure what he's going to measure out to when he does an official measurement because the Russian players didn't come to the combine. So he's not tiny, but he's not huge. And that's the big thing. He's probably never going to be physically imposing. And then talking about his puck skills and his skill set, at least at the KHL level, he doesn't make high-end skill plays with the puck very often. Now, maybe that's in part because he's trying to keep his head above water as a teenager in a really good pro league playing against men. That's possible. But in any case, he doesn't show top-end skill very often. And a lot of times when he tries to show that kind of top-end skill, when he tries to make those types of plays, he just doesn't finish them very often, and that's definitely a little bit of a concern. Another issue with his puck skills, he right now can be knocked off the puck pretty easily, and that's not just because he's small. I see a lot of opposing players knocking the puck away from him just with quality poke checks. Finally, Artamonov is probably more of a playmaker than a scorer. His shot isn't that great. He probably doesn't deploy it as much as he should, and while maybe that'll come around in time, if you're looking at him right now, he really doesn't grade out as a goal scorer. So when you're looking at Artamonov, the prospect, right now you're getting a forward with a really high motor who you can trust to be an energy player, a great forechecker, and at the very least should slot in as a quality energy winger at the NHL level. The offensive upside, that's in question, to be sure, but most likely he didn't luck into the kind of production he had in the KHL as a teenager in his draft year. Maybe if he had spent the entirety of his draft season in Russian juniors or in the second-tier pro league in Russia, his skills would be more obvious because he'd be playing against easier competition. That's legitimately possible. It's also possible that this is just who he is as a scorer, that he's just a good energy forward, and he's going to stay around this level of production basically his entire pro career, regardless of where he is, because he doesn't have the puck skills or the instincts to be anything better. That's a plausible outcome, too. That said, at the very least, Artamonov should at least be a good NHL winger. And the promising KHL production, it leaves the door open for the possibility that he could be a lot more than that.
We all silly like the mayor.